everyone, today is May 1st, and on this day in 1898, the Navy's Asiatic Squadron destroys the Spanish Pacific Fleet at Manila Bay. It was the first battle of the Spanish-American War, and almost 400 Spanish sailors were killed, with 10 of their old dilapidated warships sunk or captured, with only 6 Americans wounded. Commodore George Dewey led the attack, which cleared the way for the U.S. occupation of Manila and the eventual transfer of the Philippines to American control. Later in the year, the Treaty of Paris officially ended the war, giving the U.S. its first overseas empire. Little did we know at the time, insurgents who had been fighting Spain continued their fight against U.S. forces, with 10 times as many U.S. troops being killed trying to suppress the Philippine people than we lost fighting the Spanish War. The Philippine legislature eventually accepted a U.S. proposal for independence on the same day in 1934. In 1931, the Empire State Building in New York City is officially open for business. President Herbert Hoover dedicated the building by pressing a button at the White House that symbolically turned on the building's lights. Oddly enough, one of the original investors for the building was former New York Governor Al Smith, whom Hoover had beaten in the presidential election of 1928. The entire structure was built up in just over a year, was under budget and ahead of schedule. When it was finished, it was 102 stories and 1,250 feet high and was the world's tallest skyscraper, a title that it held until 1972 when the World Trade Center was built. And in 1958, President Eisenhower proclaims May 1st as Law Day to honor the role of law in the creation of the United States. Although not a federal holiday, it is an official observance whose creation had been suggested by the American Bar Association as a national day set aside to celebrate the rule of law. Now, in many parts of the world, May 1st was celebrated as International Workers' Day, and the date for Law Day was chosen as an attempt to suppress these celebrations in the U.S. because of the holiday's obvious communist overtones, including its devotion to the rights of the working class to participate in government. And on this day in 2011, exactly 3,519 days after the 9/11 attacks, the most wanted man in the world, Osama bin Laden, was killed by a team of U.S. Special Forces during a raid on his hideout in Pakistan. The leader of the al-Qaeda terrorist network was thought responsible for multiple attacks on the United States, including the 1998 bombings of the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, the 2000 attack on the USS Cole, and the 9/11 attacks in New York and Washington. The raid started at 1 a.m. local time, with 23 Navy SEALs descending on the compound in Black Hawk helicopters, one of which crashed during the operation. 5 people were killed in the attack, including bin Laden, who was flown by helicopter to Afghanistan for official identification and then buried at sea, all within 24 hours of his death. President Obama had ordered the raid, and he informed the public that evening in a press conference. Exactly 1 year later, he's using his death in a campaign commercial for re-election. Well, that's it for today, but be sure to stop by tomorrow for more on this day in history.